Hey, night owls and frazzled dreamers, ready to ditch the day's stress for a wild ride through history. Tonight, we're thrusting you into the chaotic, reeking heart of ancient civilizations. Think Rome's filthy alleys where sewers spill onto cobblestones, or Parthia's dusty plains where warrior princesses swing swords fiercer than their glares. You're no king or pharaoh, just a weary soul dodging rancid fish sauce and rickety stairs in a world without Netflix or aspirin. Brutal? Absolutely, and you'd crumble before lunch. So dim the lights, wrap yourself in a cozy blanket, let a fan's soft hum calm your nerves, and step into this gritty past. Hit that like button if you're intrigued, subscribe for more historical escapes, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what's the time? Maybe Seattle at midnight? Brace yourself. Surviving Rome's stench and danger is your first test. Let's plunge in. Picture this. You're not nestled in your soft, modern bed with clean sheets and a smartphone glowing nearby. Instead, you jolt awake in the heart of ancient Rome, inside an insula, a teetering, overcrowded apartment block that feels like it's plotting to collapse before breakfast. The air hits you first, thick with the sour stench of stale wine, rotting cabbage, and something you desperately hope isn't sewage. A rooster screeches outside, not with the charm of a pastoral dawn, but like it's auditioning for a gladiator's funeral. Somewhere below, a baby wails, its cries bouncing off damp stone walls, while the faint clatter of carts and a neighbor's muttered prayers seep through the paper-thin partitions. You're no senator, lounging in a marble villa. You're a plebeian, stuck on the fifth floor of this fire trap, where the rent is cheap, but the risk of a ceiling cave-in is free. Your heart thumps as the reality sinks in. This is your life now, and it's barely dawn. You shift on your mattress, a lumpy sack of straw that's less a bed and more a convention center for lice. Each movement sends prickles across your skin as if the straw is staging a personal revolt against your comfort. The room is no bigger than a modern walk-in closet, its walls slick with moisture that sweats in summer and freezes in winter, leaving a clammy chill that clings to your bones. There's no window, just a jagged hole in the wall, barely wide enough for a breeze, but generous sufficient to welcome smoke, dust, and a pigeon that's eyeing your only possession, a cracked clay cup like it's planning a heist. Your threadbare tunic hangs on a peg, its fabric worn thin from countless days of sweat and grime, while a tattered blanket, reeking of damp wool and regret, lies crumpled at your feet. In the corner, a chamber pot squats, its silent judgment heavier than the stench it holds. You'd give anything for a hot shower, but in Rome, cleanliness is a dream for the rich. The walls, so thin they might as well be whispers, betray every secret of the insula. Your neighbor's fervent prayers to Jupiter mingle with his wife's sharp complaints about last night's lentils, and then, oh no, sounds that make you wish for earplugs that haven't been invented yet. You try to block it out, but the cacophony of Rome is relentless. Outside, the city is already awake, its pulse a chaotic symphony of vendors hawking overpriced figs, stray dogs snarling over scraps, and a centurion's bark cutting through the dawn. The air in your room is a heavy fog of mildew, sweat, and a metallic tang from lead pipes snaking through the building. A silent poison the Romans haven't yet figured out. You take a deep breath, then instantly regret it, coughing as the stale air scratches your throat. Modern air conditioning? A distant fantasy. Here, you breathe what Rome gives you, and it's not kind. You swing your legs off the mattress, wincing as your bare feet meet the cold, uneven floor, gritty with dust and who knows what else. The insula is a marvel of Roman engineering gone wrong, a multi-story death trap held together by crumbling mortar and blind optimism. Living on the fifth floor means you're among the poorest tenants, far from the safer, pricier ground levels where the slightly less destitute reside. The higher you go, the shakier the structure, and every creak of the wooden beams overhead reminds you that someone upstairs dropping a jug of olive oil could send your ceiling crashing down. Fire is a constant threat. Cooking is banned because a single spark could turn this tinderbox into a city-wide inferno. You glance at your meager belongings, wondering how the Romans survived this daily grind, their resilience a stark contrast to your modern reliance on coffee and central heating. Their world, built on sweat and survival, feels like a gauntlet you're already losing. You reach for your tunic, its rough fabric scraping your skin as you pull it on, and consider your next move. There's no kitchen, no fridge stocked with leftovers, and no hope of a quick breakfast burrito. Your stomach growls, but food will have to wait. First, you need to deal with that chamber pot, a task that feels like a personal insult from the gods. You lift it gingerly, its weight a grim reminder of last night's meager meal, and steel yourself for the treacherous journey down the insula's rickety staircase. Each step groans under your feet, threatening to snap and send you tumbling into the chaos below. You pause, heart racing, as a neighbor's shout echoes from the courtyard, a dispute over a spilled amphora, no doubt. This is Rome, where every moment tests your endurance, where survival demands a grit you didn't know you needed. You'd trade your soul for a flush toilet, but in this world, such luxuries are centuries away. The thought of modern comforts, soft pillows, clean water, a quiet room, taunts you as you grip the chamber pot tighter, its contents sloshing ominously. Back in your time, you'd be sipping coffee, scrolling through your phone, blissfully unaware of the lead-laced water or the lice plotting their next invasion. The Romans, though, didn't just survive this. They thrived, building aqueducts and empires while you were here, already overwhelmed by the smell. Their tenacity, their ability to carve greatness from grime, is humbling. You take a shaky step toward the stairs, knowing the street below waits with its own onslaught of noise, filth, and danger. One wrong move, and you're part of the morning's gossip, a cautionary tale of the fool who couldn't handle Rome. This is your first hour in an insula, and already you're questioning every life choice. Buckle up, the day's just begun, and Rome's ready to chew you up. You're still reeling from waking up in this Roman insula, your senses battered by the stench of sour wine and the relentless screech of a rooster that seems to hold a personal grudge. Now, as you sit on your lice-ridden straw mattress, reality bites harder than the fleas on your shins. There's no kitchen, no coffee maker, no hope of a quick snack to silence your growling stomach. Cooking is strictly forbidden in this tinderbox of an apartment block, where a single stray spark could transform your home into a city-wide bonfire before you can say Jupiter's wrath. Your meager possessions, a cracked clay cup, a threadbare tunic, and a chamber pot that's judging you harder than a Roman magistrate, offer no comfort. You glance at the cupboard, hoping for a crust of bread, but find only dust and a spider that's probably better fed than you. In your modern life, you'd be scrolling through breakfast options on your phone, but here, hunger is just another roommate you can't evict. You pull on your tunic, its rough fabric scraping your skin like a punishment for daring to exist in this world. The air in your tiny room, barely bigger than a modern closet, is a suffocating blend of mildew, sweat, and the metallic tang of lead pipes snaking through the insula's crumbling walls. Those pipes, a marvel of Roman engineering, carry water laced with poison the ancients haven't yet named, but you feel its weight in every breath. You'd kill for a glass of filtered water, but in Rome, purity is a luxury reserved for the gods and the absurdly wealthy. Your stomach rumbles louder, a desperate plea for sustenance, but the thought of food is quickly overshadowed by a more pressing issue. That chamber pot in the corner, brimming with last night's regrets, demands to be emptied. You lift it, its weight sloshing ominously, and brace yourself for the descent down the insula's staircase, a rickety gauntlet that seems designed to send you sprawling into the chaos below. The staircase is a nightmare of Roman architecture, each wooden step groaning under your weight, like it's auditioning for a tragedy. You grip the chamber pot tightly, heart pounding as you navigate the narrow, creaking path, every squeak a reminder that this building is held together by little more than prayer and crumbling mortar. One misstep, and you'll be the morning's entertainment, your pot's contents splashing across the courtyard like a grim offering to the city gods. You pause halfway, catching a whiff of smoke from a forbidden cooking fire someone's risked downstairs, proof that desperation trumps law in this place. The Romans, with their relentless grit, somehow lived like this every day, building an empire while dodging collapsing beams and rogue sparks. You, on the other hand, are already dreaming of a modern elevator, a clean bathroom, anything to escape this death trap. But there's no turning back. The street awaits, and it's no kinder than your insula. You reach the courtyard, a cramped, filthy square where neighbors bicker over spilled amphorae and stray dogs rummage through piles of refuse. The air here is no better, thick with the stench of rotting fish, human waste, and the faint perfume of incense from a nearby shrine, Rome's attempt to mask its own decay. You edge toward the street's open gutter, the designated dumping ground for your chamber pot's contents, and pour carefully, dodging the judgmental glares of passers-by. Your sandals, already worn thin, squelch on cobblestones slick with a nauseating mix of urine, spilled wine, and who knows what else. A vendor shoves a loaf of panis rusticus in your face, its texture more brick than bread, but your coin pouch is as empty as your stomach, and you wave him off. Back home, you'd be sipping a latte, maybe checking emails, but here every step is a battle, and you're losing fast. The street outside your insula is a living beast, pulsing with chaos that makes your modern rush hour seem like a stroll in the park. Merchants shout about overpriced figs, their voices clashing with the snarls of stray dogs fighting over scraps and the sharp bark of a centurion disciplining some poor soul. A cart barrels past, its wheels clattering on the uneven stones, narrowly missing your toes as you leap aside, heart racing. The road, a so-called marvel of Roman engineering, doubles as an open sewer, its surface glistening with a foul broth of waste and neglect. You gag, wishing for a face mask, but the Romans trudge through this daily, their resilience a testament to a survival instinct you're not sure you possess. You clutch your now empty chamber pot, its stench lingering like a bad memory, and realize breakfast is a distant dream. The city's noise, filth, and danger are already overwhelming, and it's not even mid morning. As you stand there, itching from head to toe and dodging elbows in the crowded street, you can't help but marvel at the Romans' tenacity. They built aqueducts and temples and an empire that shaped the world, all while living in these crumbling insulas, breathing poison and eating bread that could double as a weapon. You'd trade your soul for a hot shower and a Wi-Fi signal, but they pressed on, carving greatness from grime. The thought is humbling, but it doesn't make the stench any easier to bear. You take a shaky step forward, the cobblestones slippery under your sandals, knowing the day's only going to get worse. This is Rome, raw, relentless, and ready to break you. You're not a gladiator, not a senator, just a plebeian trying to survive until noon, and already you're questioning every choice that led you here. The insula looms behind you, a shaky monument to endurance, and you wonder how anyone lasted a lifetime in its shadow. You've survived the creaking stairs of your Roman insula, clutching your sloshing chamber pot like it's a sacred relic. But now your bladder's screaming, and there's no private bathroom to save you. In ancient Rome, the concept of a personal toilet is as foreign as a smartphone, so you shuffle through the chaotic streets, pot in hand, toward the nearest latrine, the public restroom that's less a sanctuary and more a communal nightmare. The morning air is already thick with the stench of rotting fish, spilled wine, and the ever-present tang of human waste. A grim reminder that Rome's streets double as sewers. Your sandals slip on cobblestones, slick with unspeakable grime, and you dodge a cart that careens past with the subtlety of a charging bull. Every step feels like a gamble, but the pressure in your gut leaves no room for hesitation. You'd give your last coin for a clean, quiet bathroom, but in this city, dignity is a luxury you can't afford. You arrive at the latrine, a dimly lit structure that smells like despair and poor life choices. It's not a bathroom. It's a social club for strangers who've abandoned all sense of shame. A long stone bench stretches before you, its surface worn smooth by countless backsides, with evenly spaced holes cut into it like portals to a very specific kind of hell. Beneath, a shallow trough carries a sluggish stream of water, barely enough to whisk away the collective sins of Rome's lower classes. You hesitate, clutching your chamber pot, but there's no turning back. You pick a spot, sit on the cold stone, and immediately regret every decision that led to this moment. The man next to you, a burly merchant with a beard like a bird's nest, haggles loudly over grain prices, mid-squat as if this is his office. Across from you, a retired soldier munches olives, his eyes locked on yours with an intensity that makes you pray for invisibility. Privacy? That's a myth in Rome, as distant as air conditioning or a decent cup of coffee. The latrine is a public square with better acoustics, every grunt and splash echoing off the stone walls. A woman to your left gossips about a senator's scandal, her voice acting like she's addressing the forum. You try to focus on anything else, the chipped mosaic on the wall, the faint drip of water, but the sensory assault is relentless. The air is heavy, a choking blend of sweat, waste, and the sharp sting of vinegar from the bucket nearby. That bucket holds the tersorium, Rome's answer to toilet paper, a sponge on a stick, soaked in a dubious mix of vinegar and salt water. You stare at it, Its soggy, well-worn surface is a testament to countless users before you. The thought of touching it sends a shiver down your spine, but what choice do you have? You reach for it, praying the vinegar's done its job, and wipe with the speed of someone escaping a lion in the Colosseum. Terrorism is your point of no return, a grim symbol of Rome's communal existence. You try not to think about the hands that held it before you, or the fact that rinsing is more hope than science. Some wealthier souls might carry their own rag, or, if they're truly elite, a bit of moss, but you're a plebeian, stuck with the shared sponge and its unspeakable history. You finish, feeling lighter but spiritually scarred, as if you've just made a pact with some unholy god of hygiene. You glance at the communal basin for hand washing, its murky water swirling with the ghosts of 1,000 unwashed fingers. No soap, no running water, just a quick dip that leaves you wondering if you're cleaner or dirtier than before. Back in your modern life, you'd be scrubbing with antibacterial gel, but here cleanliness is a dream for the patricians, not for you. You stumble out of the latrine, the street's chaos almost a relief compared to the horrors you've just endured. But don't get too comfortable. Rome's laws are as unforgiving as its hygiene. Public urination is a crime, and the vigilantes, the city's overworked and underpaid enforcers, aren't known for their mercy. One wrong splash in an alley, and you're facing a fine you can't pay, or a public flogging that'll make Katrina seem like a spa day. You clutch your now empty chamber pot, its lingering stench a cruel reminder of your morning's ordeal, and weave through the crowd. A fishmonger's shout pierces the air, advertising eels that smell suspiciously past their prime, while a stray dog snaps at your heels, mistaking you for competition. The Romans somehow navigated this daily ritual without flinching, their resilience a stark contrast to your growing dread. They built an empire while sharing sponges. You're just trying not to gag. As you stand there, itching from the latrine's damp air and dodging elbows in the crowded street, you can't help but marvel at the Romans' endurance. This wasn't just a bathroom break. It was a test of survival, a daily dance with disease and discomfort that they performed without complaint. Their ability to thrive in such conditions, to construct aqueducts and laws while breathing the same foul air you're choking on, is nothing short of heroic. You'd trade everything for a flush toilet and a bar of soap, but the Romans pressed on, their grit forging a civilization that still echoes in our language, our cities, and our laws. The latrine is a humbling reminder. While you're reeling from a single morning in Rome, they lived this every day, carving greatness from grime. You take a shaky step forward, the cobblestones slick beneath your sandals, knowing the day's challenges are far from over. Rome doesn't care about your comfort. It demands you keep moving, or it'll swallow you whole. You've escaped the communal horrors of the latrine, your dignity battered but intact, only to face a new torment. Your stomach's growling like a chained beast in the Colosseum, and breakfast in ancient Rome is no feast. It's a grim ritual that makes your modern cereal bowl seem like a gift from the gods. Back home, you'd be brewing coffee, toasting bagels, or scrolling through delivery apps for a breakfast burrito. But here, in the shadow of your crumbling insula, the morning meal, or tenaculum, is a sad affair that barely qualifies as food. You stumble back to the street, still reeling from the terrorists' assault on your soul, and squint into the hazy dawn. The air is thick with the stench of rotting fish, spilled wine, and the ever-present reek of Rome's open sewers, but hunger drives you forward. You'd kill for a sip of espresso, but in this city, such dreams are as distant as a clean pair of sandals. You weave through the chaotic street, dodging a cart that barrels past with the grace of a drunken gladiator and a stray dog that snarls like it's auditioning for a role in your nightmares. A vendor, his face weathered like old leather, thrusts a loaf of panis rusticus at you, a coarse, grainy brick so dense it could double as a weapon in the forum. This is no artisanal sourdough. It's the bread of the plebeians, baked days ago and hardened into a jaw-breaking challenge. You fish in your coin pouch hoping for a miracle, but it's emptier than a senator's promises after Election Day. The vendor's eyes narrow, and he moves on, shouting about overpriced figs to the next weary soul. You stand there, clutching your empty stomach, the cobblestones slick beneath your worn sandals, and realize breakfast is less a meal and more a test of endurance. The Romans somehow made this work, building an empire on crumbs and grit, while you're already fantasizing about a drive-through. With no coins to spare, you shuffle toward a public fountain, its water trickling from an aqueduct that's both a marvel and a menace, laced with lead the Romans haven't yet linked to their frequent bouts of madness. You perch on the fountain's edge, the cold stone biting through your threadbare tunic, and break off a piece of panis rusticus you managed to scrounge from yesterday's scraps. It's as chewy as leather and tastes like despair with a hint of grit. Each bite is a reminder that Rome doesn't care about your taste buds. If you're lucky, and you're not, you might have a splash of watered-down wine, diluted to keep you from drunkenly stumbling into a centurion before noon. Coffee, eggs, avocado toast. Those are centuries away, luxuries undreamed of in this world of stale bread and survival. You chew, your jaw aching, and envy the pigeons pecking at crumbs nearby. They seem better fed than you. A street vendor's cry cuts through the morning din, hawking chickpeas fried in oil that smells suspiciously like it's been reused since the reign of Augustus. Your mouth waters, but your pouch is still empty, and the vendor's glare tells you he's not in the mood for charity. Occasionally, a whiff of garum, Rome's infamous fermented fish sauce, wafts from a nearby stall, its pungent aroma like a punch to the soul. Some plebeians drizzle it on their bread, claiming it adds flavor, but to you, it smells like a shipwreck left to rot in the sun. You'd trade your entire day's wages, if you had any, for a single bite of something that doesn't taste like regret. Yet the Romans, with their unyielding resilience, swallowed this daily, their stomachs forged as strong as their aqueducts. You gag at the thought, your modern palate spoiled by flavors they couldn't imagine, and wonder how anyone found the will to keep going. You're not alone in this misery. Around the fountain, other plebeians huddle, gnawing on their own lumps of panis rustics like it's a personal challenge. A woman with tired eyes balances a toddler on her hip, breaking off bits of bread to quiet his cries, while a laborer, his hands calloused from hauling bricks, washes down his meal with a gulp of murky wine. The scene is a stark reminder of Rome's relentless grind. Everyone's hungry, everyone's tired, but no one stops. The city's pulse is unforgiving, its streets a chaotic symphony of shouting vendors, clattering carts, and the distant bellow of a centurion disciplining some poor soul. You try to focus on your bread, but a fly lands on it, bold as a Roman senator, and you swat it away, wondering if it's eaten better than you today. Back home, you'd be sipping a smoothie, maybe checking your phone, but here every bite is a battle, and you're losing. The reticulum isn't meant to satisfy, it's meant to keep you alive, a fuel as basic as the stones beneath your feet. On rare days, you might score a smear of hard cheese or a handful of olives, but those are luxuries for the slightly less destitute. The wealthy, lounging in their villas, might enjoy fruit or honey, but you're a plebeian, scraping by on crumbs and dreaming of a better meal. The Romans didn't complain. They chewed, they worked, they conquered. Their ability to build an empire on such meager fare is a testament to a tenacity you can barely fathom. You'd give anything for a vending machine, but they pressed on, their hunger a constant companion in a city that never slowed down. You force down another bite, the bread sticking in your throat like a grudge, and feel the weight of Rome's survivalist spirit. They didn't just eat, they endured. As you choke down the last of your panis rustic, the sun climbs higher, casting a harsh light on the street's filth, spilled wine, rotting scraps, and the ever-present sheen of sewage. A child darts past, nearly knocking you into the fountain, and you steady yourself, your sandals now damp with something you don't want to identify. The day's barely begun, and already you're exhausted, your stomach only half convinced it's been fed. The Romans, though, took this in stride, their resilience carving aqueducts, temples, and laws that still echo in our world. You'd trade your soul for a microwave pizza, but they built a civilization on bread and willpower. The thought is humbling, but it doesn't make the taste any better. You stand, brushing crumbs from your tunic, and brace for the next challenge. Work awaits, and Rome's streets are ready to chew you up. This meager breakfast is just the start of a day that's out to break you. You've choked down your panis rustic, its gritty crumbs still lodged in your throat like a Roman insult, and now you're standing in the chaotic heart of your insula's courtyard, the meager breakfast barely dulling the hunger gnawing at your core. The sun's creeping higher, casting a harsh glow over Rome's filthy streets, but there's no time to linger. Work looms, and in this city, idleness is a death sentence. You glance at your threadbare tunic, its fabric worn so thin it's practically a suggestion, and notice a fresh tear from brushing against the insula's jagged walls. Back home, you'd toss it in a washing machine and grab a clean shirt, but here, you're fumbling with a wooden needle, trying to stitch the hole shut while dodging a child who's darting through the courtyard like a rogue arrow. The needle pricks your finger, and you wince, cursing the absence of a first aid kit. The Romans, though, patched their clothes and their lives with a resilience that built empires, while you're already dreaming of a Starbucks run. You tug the tunic over your shoulders, its rough weave scraping your skin like a reminder of your place in Rome's unforgiving hierarchy. Your sandals, little more than leather scraps tied to your feet, offer no protection against the cobblestones slick with sewage and spilled wine. You'd give anything for a pair of sneakers, but in this world, comfort is a patrician's privilege, not yours. You check your coin pouch, still emptier than a senator's conscience, and realize you'll need to barter or beg for anything beyond the stale bread you just ate. The courtyard buzzes with activity. A woman balances a basket of wilted vegetables, her face etched with exhaustion, while a laborer sharpens a rusty tool, his hands scarred from years of toil. The insula is a microcosm of Rome's grind, every tenant scrambling to survive another day. You marvel at their tenacity, their ability to face this chaos without the crutch of modern conveniences, but the thought of joining them makes your stomach churn harder than the garum you smelled at breakfast. Stepping out of the courtyard, you're hit by the full force of Rome's morning madness. The street is a living beast, roaring with life and reeking of decay. Vendors hawk overpriced chickpeas, their voices clashing with the bleating of a stray goat that's wandered into your path. You sidestep it, only to nearly collide with a cart piled high with amphorae, its driver cursing in Latin as he swerves. The cobblestones, polished by centuries of feet and filth, are a minefield of spilled wine, rotting scraps, and the ever-present sheen of human waste. You gag, wishing for a face mask, but the Romans stride through this daily, their lungs hardened to the city's stench. A distant trumpet blares, signaling a politician's parade, some senator flaunting his wealth with off-key fanfare and a trail of sycophants. You'd rather be anywhere else, maybe scrolling through your phone in a quiet cafe, but Rome doesn't care about your comfort. It demands you keep moving. You pause to adjust your sandal, its frayed strap threatening to snap, and a child barrels into you, nearly sending you face first into the muck. You steady yourself, heart racing, as the kid vanishes into the crowd, probably pickpocketing someone less distracted. The street's chaos is relentless. A fishmonger waves a questionable eel in your face, its smell a grim echo of the latrina you just escaped, while a drunken poet stumbles by, shouting bad verses about Jupiter's love life. You duck into an alley, hoping for a moment's peace, but even here, the air is thick with smoke from a nearby baker's oven and the faint whiff of incense from a shrine to some minor god of door hinges. The Romans, with their unshakable grit, navigated this madness daily, building aqueducts and empires while you were struggling to keep your sandals on. Their survival instinct, honed by centuries of hardship, is a humbling contrast to your modern fragility. You clutch your patched tunic, its stitches already fraying, and try to mentally prepare for the workday ahead. As a plebeian, you're likely bound for a grueling job, hauling bricks, scrubbing floors, or worse, wading through the sewers that keep Rome's streets barely passable. The thought makes you shudder, your modern sensibilities spoiled by desk jobs and ergonomic chairs. You glance at the insula looming behind you, its crumbling facade a testament to the city's precarious balance of genius and neglect. A neighbor's shout echoes from above, something about a spilled jug, and you realize this building could collapse before you even reach your worksite. The Romans didn't just survive this, they thrived, their resilience forging a civilization that still shapes our world, from the arches in our buildings to the laws in our courts. You'd trade your soul for a car to escape this chaos, but they pressed on, their lives' daily defiance of the odds. As you step back into the street, the sun now burns hotter, glinting off the cobblestones and highlighting the filth you can't escape. A centurion's bellow cuts through the din, ordering some poor soul to clear a pile of refuse, and you quicken your pace, hoping to avoid his notice. The crowd surges around you, a sea of tired faces, laborers, mothers, merchants, all bound by the same relentless grind. You're just another plebeian, itching from the insula's dust, your sandals soaked with something you refuse to name, and your stomach still grumbling from a breakfast that barely qualified as food. The Romans, though, turned this hardship into history, their endurance a masterclass in survival. All you're nowhere near passing. You'd give anything for a quiet office and a vending machine, but Rome's streets are a gauntlet, and work is calling. You take a deep breath, regretting it instantly, and brace yourself. The day's barely begun, and already you're wondering how anyone survived this city's unforgiving pulse. You've barely survived the chaos of Rome's insula and its soul-crushing latrina, your stomach still grumbling from a breakfast that was more punishment than a meal. Now, let's leave the cobblestone sewers behind and ride east to the sun-scorched plains of the Parthian Empire in the 2nd century BCE, where a princess named Rhodogun is about to turn dust and defiance into legend. Forget the silk-draped damsels of fairy tales. Rhodogun isn't sipping wine in a gilded palace. She's the daughter of Mithridates the First, a king who clawed Parthia from a dusty backwater into a power that made Rome sweat. But empires breed enemies like fleas, and in the western provinces, Media or Babylonia, rebels are stirring, seizing fortresses, and laughing at the crown as if it's just a shiny trinket. You'd be curled up with a latte and Netflix by now, but Rhodogun, she's sharpening her sword and swearing a vow that'll make your modern sensibilities quake. Parthia in the 2nd century BCE is no place for the faint-hearted. It's a sprawling patchwork of conquests, stitched together by swords, oaths, and the occasional marriage alliance, stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf. Mithridates the First, Rhodogune's father, wrested Media and Babylonia from the crumbling Seleucid Empire, turning Parthia into a force that could stare down Rome's legions. But power like that comes with a price: rebels, traitors, and ambitious nobles who think they can carve out their own kingdoms. You'd think a princess would stay safely behind palace walls, weaving tapestries or dodging suitors, but Rhodogun grew up in a different world. She watched envoys bicker over the tribute, generals sketch battle plans in the sand, and scribes scramble to track who was loyal this week. Her education wasn't in poetry or perfume. It was in statecraft, strategy, and the art of wearing armor without losing her regal edge. You'd be begging for a day off, but Rhodogun's already got her eyes on the horizon, where rebellion festers like an open wound. The rebels in Media or Babylonia aren't just grumbling peasants. They're aristocrats and city leaders, bold enough to seize fortresses and silence Parthian envoys with the kind of arrogance that makes your blood boil. They think the crown is weak, especially with Mithridates distracted by distant wars, or, depending on the timeline, possibly dead, leaving his son Pharaoh II or a regent to hold the throne. Normally, a king would send a general, some overeager cousin with more ambition than brains, to crush the uprising. But Rhodogun's not having it. She steps forward, her presence silencing the court's whispers, like a blade slicing through silk. She mounts a horse, dons armor that gleams under the desert sun, and makes a vow that's as wild as it is unbreakable. She won't wash, comb, or touch her hair until every rebel is crushed. It's not vanity. It's a war cry, a promise etched in dust and sweat, tying her honor to Parthia's survival. You'd be horrified at the thought of skipping a shower, but Rhodogun's turning her beauty into a battlefield banner. Inside her tent at night, Rhodogune is a storm of resolve and doubt. She feels the weight of her soldiers' eyes, their trust heavier than the armor pressing against her shoulders. Alone, with only the flicker of an oil lamp for company, her mind churns. What if I fail? The court's murmurs echo in her head, calling her vow foolish, unladylike, a woman's reckless gamble. She's a princess, yes, but also a symbol of Parthian pride, and symbols can shatter. Each unwashed strand of hair is a choice to sacrifice vanity for victory, to share the grit of her troops. The rebels' taunts, branding her a witch queen, spark a fury that burns hotter than the desert sun, but they also sting, planting seeds of doubt. Is she enough? She clenches her fists, her nails biting into her palms, and pushes the fear down. Parthia needs a warrior, not a polished doll, and she'll ride through hell to prove it. You'd be scrolling through therapy apps by now, but Rhodaguna's heart pounds with a fire that won't let her bend. She leads her cavalry across the scorching plains, her hair tangling into a wild, dusty banner that screams defiance with every gallop. The rebels expected a diplomat, maybe a pampered royal waving from a litter, but they get a warrior princess, her eyes blazing with steel and purpose. Parthian tactics are her weapon, feigned retreats, lightning raids, vanishing into the desert like smoke, only to strike from an unexpected flank. Her soldiers don't just follow her, they revere her, not as a delicate noble, but as a tactician with dirt under her nails and resolve in her veins. By the third month, her hair is a knotted rope, caked with dust and sweat, a living testament to her oath. To her enemies, it's terrifying, a sign of a woman who'd rather die than break her word. To her men, it's sacred, a symbol that their suffering isn't in vain. You'd be clutching a comb and a mirror, but Rhodaguna's turning her dishevelment into a crown of grit. The campaign isn't a quick skirmish. It's a grueling slog through fortified cities that sneer at Parthia's authority. The rebels, holed up in their strongholds, think they can outlast her, their walls bristling with archers and their gates reinforced with smug confidence. Rhodagun doesn't flinch. She rides at the front, her armor dented by the desert's wrath, her hair now a matted mane that sways like a war standard. She employs every trick in the Parthian playbook, cutting supply lines, poisoning wells, launching night raids that leave the rebels scrambling. Her soldiers whisper tales of her in their tents, joking that the enemy fears her hair more than her sword. The Witch Queen moniker spreads, not because she's casting spells, but because no noblewoman should be this fierce, this unyielding, this unwashed. You'd be booking a spa day, but Rhodagun's too busy carving her name into history's dusty ledger. The final stronghold looms, a walled city that's the rebellion's last gasp, its parapets lined with archers, and its gates bolted with the arrogance of traitors who think they're untouchable. Rhodagun doesn't charge headlong. She's smarter than that. She lays siege, choking their trade routes, intercepting messengers, and letting hunger and despair do what swords alone can't. Her camp is no royal pavilion. She shares her soldiers' gritty bread and lukewarm wine, her hair now a tangle of battlefield prayers and desert dust. One night, a scout finds an unguarded gate, a crack in the rebels' armor. Under cover of darkness, her forces slip inside, silent as shadows, and by dawn, the city is hers. She stands atop the battlements, face streaked with ash, her matted hair a lion's mane of victory. The rebels are broken, their defiance washed away like dust in a storm. You'd be celebrating with a hot bath, but Rhodagun's got one last act to play. In a public courtyard, surrounded by her battle-hardened troops, Rhodagun summons her servants. not to a golden chamber, but to the open air, where every soldier can witness her triumph. Basins of water are brought, oils warmed, and combs retrieved like relics from a forgotten world. She washes her hair, each tangle undone a symbol of a city reclaimed, each rinse a rebellion drowned. The troops stand silent, their scarred faces awestruck as the grime of war falls away, revealing not just a princess, but a commander who bled beside them. It's not vanity, it's a ritual, a vow fulfilled under the desert sky. The Romans built aqueducts, the Parthians forged empires, but Rhodagoon, she turned sacrifice into strength, her disheveled hair a crown no gold could match. You'd be snapping selfies to celebrate, but she's already planning her next move, her legend etched in the dust. Her victory isn't just a military triumph, it's a defiance of every expectation that tried to cage her. The court, with its whispers of unladylike and foolish, falls silent. The soldiers, who once doubted a woman's place on the battlefield, now chant her name. Rhodagoon doesn't rush back to the palace for praise or luxury. She stays with her troops, inspecting defenses, hearing complaints, and paying for supplies from her own coffers. Her presence, unpolished but unyielding, demands loyalty not through fear, but through example. The rebels' defeat sends a message across Parthia. Cross the crown, and you'll face a woman who'd rather let her beauty decay than let her empire fall. You'd be binge-watching a victory montage, but Rhodagooni's legacy is forged in memory, not marble, a testament to a grit that outshines any modern comfort. The Parthian Empire, under leaders like Rhodagoon, wasn't just a rival to Rome. It was a crucible of resilience, where survival meant embracing the dust and the fight. Her story, though sparse in surviving records, echoes through the ages, a reminder that power isn't always in gold or thrones, but in the will to keep going. You'd be curled up under a weighted blanket, grateful for your quiet bedroom, but Rhodagoon rode through deserts, her hair a battle flag, her heart a fortress. The Romans endured their insulae, the Parthians their rebellions, and you're just trying to make it through a story that makes your modern struggles feel like a breeze. As Rhodogoone's legend fades into the night, you can't help but feel a pang of awe for those who built history with nothing but their stubborn, unyielding spirit. You've staggered through the creaking death trap of your Roman insula, survived the soul-scarring ordeal of the latrine, and forced down a breakfast of panis rustic that could double as a cudgel, but Rome's relentless pulse doesn't care about your exhaustion. The sun's climbing higher, baking the cobblestones in a heat that feels like Jupiter's personal vendetta, and you're no senator sipping wine in a marble villa. You're a plebeian, bound for a workday that makes your modern office job seem like a nap in Elysium. Your tunic, patched and soaked with sweat, clings to your skin like a clingy ex, while your sandals, little more than leather scraps tied with fraying cords, offer no protection against the filthy streets ahead. You'd give your last as for a coffee break and a pair of noise-canceling headphones, but in ancient Rome, rest is a myth, and survival is the only coin that is spent. As you step out of the insula's crumbling shadow, the street hits you like a gladiator's fist, and you realize that work is coming and it's going to break you. Your job, if the gods have shown you any mercy, is hauling bricks for one of Rome's endless construction projects, another temple to appease Mars, an aqueduct to quench the city's thirst, or a senator's gaudy villa that screams wealth louder than a forum orator. If luck's turned its back, You're a porter, dodging carts while lugging sacks of grain heavier than your own regrets. And if the fates are feeling particularly cruel, you're a sewer worker, wading through the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's main drain, where the city's waste swirls in a putrid river that smells like death's own perfume. Work starts at dawn when the air's still cool but already thick with the tang of smoke, rotting fish, and the ever-present stench of human waste. Your foreman, a grizzled brute with a voice like a cracked whip, barks orders in guttural Latin, waving a stick that's less a tool and more a promise of pain. No hard hats, no gloves, just your calloused hands and a whispered prayer to Fortuna that you don't drop a brick on your foot. You'd be clocking in with a swipe card, grumbling about a slow Wi-Fi connection, but here, one slip could crush your spine or your livelihood. The tools you're handed are as forgiving as a Roman magistrate, a splintered shovel that bites your palms, a basket so worn it has more holes than weave, or a rope that's fraying faster than your patience. You heft a load of bricks, their weight grinding into your shoulders like a personal insult, and trudge toward the worksite, your sandals slipping on cobblestones, slick with a nauseating stew of urine, spilled wine, and yesterday's garum. The sun's relentless now, turning your tunic into a soggy second skin, and you feel the eyes of passers-by, merchants hawking wares, mothers balancing baskets, thieves sizing you up for an easy mark. Women work just as hard, their hands weaving wool in cramped stalls, selling wilted greens at the market, or juggling screaming children while scrubbing pots with water that's more mud than liquid. No one gets a pass in Rome. Not the old, not the young, not you. The Romans' grit is staggering, their ability to toil under this unforgiving sun, a testament to a resilience you're barely clinging to. You'd be calling in sick with a fake cough, but in Rome, sickness means starvation, and starvation means a one-way trip to the Tiber. You pause to catch your breath, leaning against a wall that's more dust than mortar, its crumbling surface a grim reminder of the insula you just escaped. A vendor shoves a handful of greasy chickpeas in your face, their scent a cruel tease for your empty coin pouch, and you wave him off, your stomach growling louder than the stray dogs fighting over scraps nearby. The street is a living beast, roaring with a hows that make your modern rush hour look like a meditative retreat. Carts clatter by, their drivers cursing as they swerve through crowds with no regard for toes or lives, their wheels kicking up clouds of dust that sting your eyes. The roads, marvels of Roman engineering, are paved with precision but double as open sewers, their surfaces glistening with a foul broth of human waste, rotting food, and the occasional dead rat someone's tossed aside like yesterday's news. You gag, wishing for a face mask, but the Romans breathe this air daily, their lungs as tough as their spirits. You'd be ordering an Uber to escape this madness, but here, every step is a battle against Rome's unrelenting pulse. The noise is a relentless assault, a cacophony that drowns out any hope of peace. Vendors shout about eels that smell like they've been rotting since the Republic's founding, their voices clashing with the bleating of a stray goat that's wandered into your path. You sidestep it, only to nearly collide with a cart piled high with amphorae, its driver yelling curses that would make a sailor blush. A centurion's bellow cuts through the din, disciplining a trembling recruit who's probably regretting his life choices, while the off-key blare of trumpets announces a politician's parade clogging the street ahead. You duck into an alley, hoping for a moment's respite, but it's no better. Smoke from a baker's oven stings your throat, and the faint whiff of incense from a shrine to some minor god of boundaries only adds to the sensory overload. The Romans weave through this chaos like it's second nature, their endurance carving aqueducts and temples while you're struggling to keep your sandals from snapping. You'd trade your soul for noise-canceling headphones, but in Rome, silence is a luxury only the gods can afford. Work isn't just hard, it's a daily dance with death, a brutal test of survival that makes your modern complaints seem laughable. If you're a laborer, you're hauling stones under a sun that feels like it's personally offended by your existence. Each step, a gamble that the scaffold won't collapse or a brick won't crush your foot. One misstep and you're done, either maimed or out of a job, which in Rome is just a slower death sentence. The foreman doesn't care about your pain. Show up late, and you lose your day's pay, or worse, earn a beating that leaves you limping for weeks. If you're a porter, you're dodging carts that race through the streets like chariots in the Circus Maximus, their wheels threatening to grind you into the cobblestones. And sewer workers? They wade through a stinking slurry in the Cloaca Maxima, their skin burning from the filth that Rome flushes away, their lungs choking on air that's more poison than oxygen. You'd be filing a workplace safety complaint faster than you can say OSHA, but the Romans grit their teeth and keep going, their survival instinct a blueprint for an empire that still shapes our world. You stumble through the crowd, your basket of bricks digging into your back, and nearly trip over a pile of refuse someone's left in the street, a rotting fish head, a broken amphora, and something you're praying isn't human waste. A sudden brawl erupts nearby, a fishmonger and a baker trading punches over a spilled basket, the crowd cheering like it's a gladiator match in the Colosseum. You skirt around them, heart pounding, and dodge a gang of children chasing a rat for sport, their laughter sharp as knives. The Romans built roads that stretched across continents and aqueducts that carried water from distant hills, but they couldn't figure out a garbage system, and you're paying the price. Your sandals now caked with a slimy mess you refuse to name. A woman selling vegetables shouts at you to buy her wilted greens, her voice cutting through the din like a centurion's command, but your empty pouch silences her. You'd be ordering takeout with a tap on your phone, but here, every meal, every step, every moment is a fight for survival, and the Romans fought it with a tenacity that humbles your modern fragility. You finally reach the worksite, a half-built temple or aqueduct that's Rome's latest stab at immortality. The foreman's already yelling, his Latin curses as sharp as the stick he waves, his eyes scanning for any sign of weakness. You pick up another load of bricks, their weight grinding your shoulders into submission, and join the line of laborers, their faces etched with the same exhaustion you feel. The sun's relentless now, turning your tunic into a soggy rag, and the dust from the site clogs your throat, making every breath a labor of its own. You glance at a fellow worker, his hands bleeding from rope burns, his eyes dulled by years of this grind, and realize he's been at it since he was a boy. The Romans didn't just work, they endured, their sweat and blood laying the stones of an empire that still echoes in our language, our laws, our cities. You'd be dreaming of a lunch break and a cold soda, But here, lunch is a distant hope, and the workday's only begun. The thought of a break is a cruel mirage, flickering just out of reach. If your foreman's in a rare good mood, you might get a moment to choke down another lump of Panis rustic or a sip of watered down wine that tastes like regret. But most days, you work until the sun dips low, your body screaming for rest. Women at the market, balancing baskets of goods and screaming babies, don't get breaks either. They haggle, barter, and pray their wares to sell before they spoil in the heat. The Romans' ability to keep going, to build aqueducts that still stand while you're struggling to lift a single brick, is a testament to a grit you can barely comprehend. You'd be checking your watch, counting down to quitting time, but in Rome, time is measured in sweat and survival. A cart overturns nearby, spilling amphory across the street, and a crowd gathers, shouting like it's a festival. You keep moving, your sandals slipping, your heart pounding, knowing Rome doesn't care if you fall. The worksite is a chaotic symphony of hammers, shouts, and the groan of ropes hauling stone. You heft another load, your back aching like it's plotting mutiny, and dodge a falling brick that misses your head by inches. The foreman's eyes are everywhere, his stick twitching like a predator waiting to pounce. You glance at the rising temple, its columns a promise of glory for someone else, some senator or god who'll never know your name. The Romans turned this chaos into order, their roads and aqueducts stretching across continents, their laws shaping the world while you're just trying to survive the morning. A fellow laborer collapses nearby, overcome by heat or hunger, and the foreman barely blinks, barking at the rest of you to keep moving. You'd be calling HR, but in Rome, compassion is as scarce as clean water. The city's pulse thrums around you, a relentless reminder that Rome is alive, unforgiving, and built on the backs of people like you. The street's chaos doesn't let up as you trudge on, the sun now a blazing tyrant overhead. A politician's parade blocks your path, trumpets blaring off key, slaves carrying banners that proclaim some senator's greatness while you're choking on dust. You wait, your load growing heavier, your legs trembling from the strain. A pickpocket brushes past, his fingers grazing your tunic, but your empty pouch saves you from loss. The Romans built an empire on this madness, their resilience a masterclass in defiance that makes your modern complaints seem trivial. You'd trade everything for a quiet office and a vending machine, but they pressed on, their sweat and blood forging a civilization that still shapes our world. The worksite looms, its stones a monument to their grit, and you realize you're not cut out for this. Rome's streets and jobs are a relentless gauntlet, and you're already crumbling, while the Romans built an empire on sheer, stubborn will. You've stumbled through the grimy chaos of Rome's insula, endured the soul-shattering latrina, and forced down a breakfast that could double as a blunt weapon. But as the Roman sun burns hotter, let's trade the cobblestone sewers for the sun-drenched banks of the Nile, sailing back to ancient Egypt in the 15th century BCE. Here, where the desert's golden sands kiss the river's emerald waters, and gods whisper through lotus-carved columns, a woman named Hatshepsut is rewriting the rules of power with a boldness that makes the pyramids seem timid. Forget the delicate queens of fairy tales or the toga-clad senators of Rome. Hatshepsut isn't just a queen, she's a pharaoh, a divine ruler who strapped on a false beard and a man's kilt to command an empire that made the world bow. You'd be curled up with a latte and a podcast, whining about a missed bus, but Hatshepsut? She's staring down a court of skeptical nobles, her heart a furnace of ambition that could outshine Ra, the sun god himself. This is her story, and it's one that'll make your modern stresses feel like a gentle desert breeze. Egypt in the 15th century BCE is a land of staggering beauty and brutal contrasts. The Nile, a lifeline cradled by merciless deserts, feeds lush fields and powers an empire at the peak of its new kingdom glory. Pharaohs are gods on earth, their every decree etched in stone, their monuments defying time itself. Hatshepsut, born to Thutmose the Serps, a warrior king who carved Egypt's borders into Nubia and the Levant, grows up in the shadow of divine power. But when her father dies, the throne passes to her half-brother and husband, Thutmose II, a man whose reign is as forgettable as a papyrus memo lost in the royal archives. You'd think a royal woman's role is to bear heirs, smile at banquets, and fade into the background, but Hatshepsut has no patience for such scripts. When Thutmose II dies young, leaving a toddler heir, Thutmose III, and a fragile dynasty, she seizes the moment, not as a regent, but as a full-fledged pharaoh, claiming divine birth from Amen himself. You'd be scrolling through job listings, dreading a performance review, but Hatshepsut's donning a double crown and rewriting history with a scepter in her hand. The court of Thebes is a labyrinth of ambition, its nobles slithering behind lotus-shaped pillars, their whispers sharp as obsidian blades. A female pharaoh? Unthinkable. Egypt's patriarchy is as rigid as the granite blocks hauled from Aswan, and the idea of a woman claiming the title of king is as alien as a smartphone in a scribe's hands. Hatshepsut knows the stakes. Her every move is scrutinized, her every decision a potential crack in her divine facade. She dons the royal kilt, the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, and a ceremonial beard, not to hide her womanhood, but to scream her authority to a world that refuses to listen. In the quiet of her private chambers, where the scent of myrrh lingers and the Nile's murmur drifts through latticed windows, she's a storm of resolve and dread. Her heart races as she paces the polished floors, her mind a whirlwind. Will history carve my name in stone, or will it bury me in the sand? The nobles' sneers, calling her unnatural, usurper, cut deeper than she lets on, their doubts echoing in the silence of her sleepless nights. You'd be stress-eating ice cream, but Hatshepsut's fighting for a legacy that defies 1,000 years of tradition. Her reign isn't just about holding power, it's about redefining what an empire can be. Unlike her father, who spilled blood to expand Egypt's borders, Hatshepsut chooses creation over conquest. She commissions towering obelisks, their granite tips piercing the sky like needles, stitching her name into eternity. She orders statues carved in her likeness, not as a delicate queen, but as a pharaoh with the serene strength of a god. Her advisors, their faces etched with skepticism, murmur about the cost, but Hatshepsut's vision is unyielding. She dreams of an Egypt that thrives not through war, but through wealth, trade, and monuments that will outlast her critics. You'd be budgeting for a weekend getaway, but she's planning a legacy that will echo across millennia. Her greatest gamble is that expedition to Punt, a fabled land far to the south, rumored to brim with gold, ivory, and myrrh trees that could perfume Egypt's temples for generations. It's a bold move, one that could crown her reign or sink it in disgrace. The expedition to Punt is no small feat. It's a logistical odyssey across uncharted seas, where storms could swallow ships and hostile tribes might greet them with arrows instead of trade. Hatshepsut handpicks her navigators, men whose hands are calloused from the Nile's currents, and oversees every detail, from the rigging of sails to the offerings burned for Hathor, goddess of safe journeys. The court buzzes with doubt, nobles whispering that she squandered Egypt's wealth on a woman's folly. You'd be refreshing a tracking app, panicking over a delayed package. But Hatshepsut's betting her divine status on this voyage, her legacy tethered to the creaking masts of wooden ships. In her chambers, she kneels before a shrine to Amun, her prayers mingling with the scent of incense, and wrestles with a gnawing fear. What if the ships vanish into the sea? What if her critics are right, and her name drowns with them? She pushes the doubt aside, her resolve as unyielding as the granite she carves, and waits, her heart a drumbeat of hope and dread. You'd be stress scrolling social media, but Hatshepsut's staring at the horizon, her fate in the hands of the gods. Months drag on, the court growing restless, their whispers turning to jeers. The Nile flows as it always has, indifferent to her gamble, while Hatshepsut maintains her serene facade, her kilt and beard daily defiance of their skepticism. Then, one dawn, the cry goes up. Ships on the horizon, their sails tattered but their holds bursting. The docks of Thebes erupt in chaos as the fleet unloads its treasures, gold dust shimmering like Ra's tears, ivory tusks stacked like sacred offerings, myrrh trees destined to root in Egypt's soil, and exotic animals, baboons, leopards, that clamber and roar, delighting the crowd. Hatshepsut stands at the water's edge, her kilt catching the sun's glare, her false beard a badge of triumph. The nobles who sneered now bow, their doubts silenced by a tide of wealth that proves her vision. You'd be posting a vacation haul on Instagram, but Hatshepsut's triumph is carved into history, a testament to a woman who dared to dream beyond swords and conquest. She doesn't stop there. Her mortuary temple at el-bahri, nestled against the cliffs of Thebes, is her masterpiece, a terraced wonder of sandstone and symmetry that sings her glory to the heavens. She orders artisans to etch scenes of Punt into its walls, ships laden with myrrh, baboons scampering aboard, traders kneeling before her envoys, each detail a brushstroke in the portrait of her reign. You'd be snapping selfies for likes, but Hatshepsut's crafting a narrative to outlast her life, a story in stone that defies the erasure she fears. Her temple isn't just a monument, it's a declaration that her rule is divine, her will unbreakable, and her legacy eternal. The Punt expedition, her obelisks, her statues, they're not just achievements, they're proof that power doesn't need a man's face to reshape an empire. The Romans endured their insulas, the Parthians their rebellions, but Hatshepsut, she built immortality from vision and stone, her reign a golden age that left Egypt richer, stronger, and prouder. Yet the shadow of oblivion looms. In her private moments, as she traces the carvings of her temple, her fingers lingering on her own image, she knows the truth. Egypt's memory is as fickle as the desert wind. Her stepson, Thutmose III, waits in the wings, a warrior prince eager to claim his throne. She ruled for over 2 decades, her reign a beacon of prosperity, but she feels the weight of time, the inevitability of her name being chipped away. In her chambers, surrounded by the scent of lotus and the hum of priests' chants, she wrestles with a quiet terror. Will they remember me, Or will they erase me like a misspelled hieroglyph? You'd be worrying about a bad performance review, but Hatshepsut's fighting for a place in eternity, her heart a battlefield of hope and fear. She pours her soul into her monuments, each obelisk a plea to the gods, each relief a vow that her name will endure. Her fears are not unfounded. After her death, Thutmose III, now pharaoh, unleashed his resentment, ordering her statues smashed, her name hacked from monuments, her image defaced as if he could erase her from history's scroll. The nobles who once bowed now nod in approval, their loyalty as fleeting as a Nile flood. You'd be stressing over a deleted post, but Hatshepsut's legacy is under attack, her life's work chipped away by chisels wielded by envy. Yet her temple at Deir el-Bahri stands defiant, its reliefs whispering her story to the winds. Centuries later, archaeologists will uncover her name, piecing together the fragments of a woman who dared to be king. Her obelisks, still piercing the sky, and her temple, still nestled against the cliffs, are proof that her vision was stronger than her enemies' spite. The Romans built aqueducts, and the Parthians fought rebels, but Hatshepsut carved her name into eternity, a woman who ruled as a god in a world that tried to silence her. Her story is a thunderclap against every expectation that sought to cage her. In a time when women were expected to fade into the shadows of men, Hatshepsut claimed divinity, her false beard a middle finger to tradition, and her reign a masterclass in defying the odds. You'd be binge-watching a documentary about her, marveling from your cozy couch, but she lived it, every day a battle against doubt, patriarchy, and the weight of a crown not made for her. The Punt expedition, or her temple, her obelisks, they're not just achievements, they're proof that power can wear a woman's face and still shake the world. The Romans endured their latrine, the Parthians their deserts, but Hatshepsut redefined what a ruler could be, her legacy a beacon for anyone who's ever been told they don't belong. You'd be grateful for your Wi-Fi and air-conditioned room, but Hatshepsut's grit makes you wonder, could you ever muster that kind of courage? The Nile flows on, its waters carrying the echoes of her name, a reminder that survival isn't just about enduring, it's about daring to dream beyond the limits of your time. Hatshepsut didn't just rule Egypt, she reshaped it, her trade routes and temples a testament to a vision that outlasted her enemies' chisels. You'd be stressing over a looming deadline, scrolling through your phone for distraction, but she faced a court of skeptics and won, her legacy carved in stone while you're just trying to make it through the day. The Romans, the Parthians, the Egyptians, they built empires on the backs of people who refused to break, their resilience a humbling contrast to your modern comforts. As Hatshepsut's story fades into the night, you can't help but feel a pang of awe for a woman who turned doubt into divinity, her name a whisper that still rings through the sands of time. But Hatshepsut's legacy isn't just in stone, it's in the way she challenged the world to see power differently. She didn't need to swing a sword to prove her strength. Her ships, her temples, and her trade routes spoke louder than any battlefield. You'd be fretting over a low battery, but she was navigating the politics of divinity, balancing the expectations of priests, nobles, and a boy king who'd one day try to erase her. Her reign was a delicate dance, each step calculated to keep Egypt stable while her vision soared. She rebuilt trade networks neglected by her predecessors, restored temples that crumbled over time, and sent scribes to record her deeds in hieroglyphs that gleamed like gold. Her expedition to Punt wasn't just about wealth, it was about proving Egypt could reach beyond its borders without bloodshed, a radical idea in a world obsessed with conquest. You'd be impressed by a new app launch, but Hatshepsut launched an era of prosperity that left Egypt's coffers overflowing. Her temple at Deir el-Bahri isn't just a monument, it's a love letter to her people, her gods, and her legacy. Every ramp, every column, every relief tells a story of a woman who refused to be forgotten. She walked its terraces, her sandals echoing on the stone, and imagined priests centuries later chanting her name. You'd be posting a story to your followers, but she was crafting a narrative for eternity, her artist laboring under the desert sun to capture her triumphs. The Punt reliefs, with their vivid scenes of ships and myrrh, aren't just art, they're propaganda, a bold claim that her rule was blessed by the gods. She knew the risks of her gender and the fragility of her legacy, yet she built with a confidence that defied the odds. You'd be anxious about a social media misstep, but Hatshepsut was betting her immortality on stone and vision, a gamble that paid off despite the chisels of her successors. Her story resonates because it's not just about power, it's about defiance. Hatshepsut didn't just rule, she shattered the mold of what a ruler could be, proving that strength doesn't need a man's voice to command respect. You'd be marveling at her from the comfort of your bed, but she lived every moment of this battle, her heart a crucible of ambition and fear. The Romans endured their streets, the Parthians their wars, but Hatshepsut fought a different kind of war, one against tradition, against doubt, against time itself. Her legacy, though scarred by Thutmose III's vengeance, endures in the stones of Deir el-Bahri, in the tales whispered by archaeologists, and in the awe of those who hear her name. You'd be grateful for your quiet nights and modern comforts, but Hatshepsut's story makes you pause. What could you achieve if you dared to defy the world's expectations? You've staggered through Rome's filthy streets, endured the soul-crushing latrina, choked down a breakfast that could knock out a gladiator, and survived a workday that left your bones aching and your tunic soaked with the city's grime. The sun's finally dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple, and you're hoping, praying even, for a moment of peace, a chance to collapse onto your lice-ridden straw mattress and escape into sleep. But Rome doesn't sleep, and neither will you. Nightfall in the ancient city isn't a lullaby. It's a shift from chaotic daylight to a darker, more dangerous beast, where the streets prowl with thieves, fires lurk in every shadow, and the gods demand your worship with a ferocity that makes your modern Netflix binge seem like a sacred ritual. You'd give your last as for a quiet bedroom and a white noise machine, but in Rome, silence is a myth, and the night is out to get you. As you step back into your insula's crumbling courtyard, the city's pulse quickens, and you realize that surviving the day was just the warm-up. The streets of Rome at night are no place for the faint-hearted. Without streetlights, the city plunged into murky darkness, lit only by flickering oil lamps in wealthier homes and the occasional torch carried by someone brave or foolish enough to wander after dusk. You clutch your tunic, its fabric still damp from the day's sweat, and venture out, your sandals slipping on cobblestones slick with spilled wine and the ever-present sheen of sewage. The vigils, Rome's night watchmen, are supposed to patrol these alleys, keeping fires at bay and thieves in check, but they're as overworked as they are underpaid, more likely to nap in a doorway than save you from a cut purse. You'd be calling an Uber to avoid this chaos, but here you're navigating by moonlight and blind hope, every shadow hiding a mugger or a drunken ex-gladiator looking for a fight. The air is thick with smoke from cooking fires, illegal but inevitable in the desperate insulas, and the faint tang of incense from a nearby shrine, a reminder that even the night belongs to the gods. You duck into an alley, hoping to shortcut your way home, but it's a mistake. The narrow passage is a labyrinth of danger, its walls closing in like the jaws of some ancient beast. A thief brushes past, his fingers grazing your tunic, but your empty coin pouch saves you from loss. A sudden shout echoes, a brawl breaking out over a spilled amphora or a bad dice roll, and you quicken your pace, heart pounding as you dodge a pile of refuse that smells like it's been rotting since Caesar's last triumph. The Romans, with their relentless grit, navigated these streets nightly, their survival instinct honed by a city that never showed mercy. You'd trade your soul for a jeeps and a flashlight, but they pressed on, their lives a daily defiance of the darkness. A distant drumbeat signals a religious procession, and you realize that Rome's gods don't sleep either, and they're watching your every move. The insula you call home is no sanctuary. Its wooden beams creak like they're plotting to collapse, and the threat of fire looms larger at night when a single overturned lamp could turn your building into a city-wide inferno. You climb the rickety stairs, each step groaning under your weight, and hear the chaos of your neighbors. Someone's coughing like they're auditioning for a plague, another's arguing with his wife over a missing jug, and somewhere a baby's wail pierces the night like a siren. You reach your tiny room, its damp walls glistening in the moonlight, and collapse onto your straw mattress, but sleep is a cruel mirage. The noise is relentless, drunken laughter from a nearby tavern, the clatter of a late-night cart, and the faint chant of a priest honoring some obscure god of Dr. Hinges. You'd be slipping on earplugs and cranking a white noise app, but the Romans endured this nightly cacophony, their resilience a testament to a spirit you're barely clinging to. The vigil is your only hope against the night's dangers, but it's a shaky one at best. These part firefighters and part police are spread thin across Rome's sprawling maze, their buckets and axes no match for the city's endless threats. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, praying they'll catch a fire before it reaches your insula, but the smell of smoke creeps through the wall's cracks, a reminder that someone's cooking despite the ban. A fire in 64 CE will one day devour half the city, and you feel its shadow now, every creak of the building a warning that you might not wake up. The Romans built an empire through this chaos. Their aqueducts and roads were a marvel of engineering, but their nights were a gamble with death. You'd be checking a fire alarm and calling 911, but here, survival depends on luck and a prayer to Vesta, goddess of the hearth, who's not exactly known for answering. If the threat of fire doesn't keep you awake, the street's chaos will. Taverns spill over with raucous laughter, cheap wine fueling fights that end in blood or broken teeth. A group of revelers stumbles past, shouting bad poetry about Mars and Venus, their voices slurred like they've been drinking since noon. You press your face into the mattress, hoping to muffle the noise, But the straw's itch is as relentless as the city outside. A sudden scream, passion, murder, or both, echoes from a nearby insula, and you pull your tattered blanket tighter, wishing for the hum of a modern fan to drown it all out. The Romans somehow slept through this, their endurance a blueprint for a civilization that shaped our world. You'd be popping a melatonin and praying for silence. But in Rome, the night is a beast that never quiets, and you're just another prey caught in its jaws. Religion in Rome isn't a comfort, it's a demand, a relentless shadow that follows you even into the night. The gods are everywhere, their shrines tucked into every corner, their names invoked for everything from door hinges to mildew. You're expected to honor them all, from Jupiter's thunder to Cloacina's sewers, and skipping a ritual is like inviting a plague or a bad harvest to ruin everyone's day. You lie there, half asleep, and hear the distant chant of a festival procession, another night dedicated to some deity you barely understand. The air grows heavy with incense, its cloying scent seeping through the insula's walls, a reminder that piety is mandatory. You'd be scrolling through a meditation app, seeking calm, but the Romans bowed to their gods with a discipline that built temples and empires. Their faith wasn't just belief, it was survival, a contract with the divine that you're too tired to sign. The emperor himself is a god, or close enough, and his worship is non-negotiable. You're expected to burn incense at his altar, sing his praises, and never roll your eyes during his triumphal parades, lest you be branded impious, or worse, suspicious. A neighbor's late-night offering to the emperor's statue, complete with mumbled prayers and the clink of a coin, drifts through the walls, and you wonder if he's more devout or just scared of the vigilantes patrolling nearby. The Romans took this seriously, their loyalty to the divine emperor a thread in the fabric of their empire. But you're just trying not to sneeze from the incense or trip over a shrine on your way to work tomorrow. You'd be binge watching a series to unwind, but in Rome, religion is a job, and the gods don't offer sick days. Entertainment might seem like an escape, but Rome's nightlife is no gentle reprieve. The Colosseum, even at night, hums with the echoes of daytime gore, gladiators spilling blood, criminals devoured by lions, or staged naval battles where real men drown for the crowd's amusement. You could wander to the Circus Maximus, where chariot races leave broken wheels and broken bodies in their wake, the crowd roaring like it's feeding on the chaos. You'd rather stay in bed, but the insula's noise makes that impossible, and the streets beckon with a dangerous allure. A fire breather performs in a nearby square, his flames casting eerie shadows, while a con artist hawks fake amulets to ward off evil spirits. You'd be streaming a movie, popcorn in hand, but the Romans found thrill in this brutal spectacle, their resilience turning chaos into culture. You dodge a drunken reveler, his wine-soaked breath a reminder of the tavern's pull, and wonder how anyone found joy in this madness. The streets are never quiet, even as midnight creeps closer. A religious procession winds through the city, drums pounding, priests chanting, their torches flickering like the god's own eyes. You lie there, your mattress itching, your ears ringing, and realize sleep is a privilege you don't have. The Romans, with their unshakable grit, endured these nights, their lives a relentless cycle of work, worship, and survival. They built aqueducts that still stand, laws that echo in our courts, and a city that thrived despite its chaos. You'd be reaching for a sleep aid, desperate for rest, but they pressed on, their endurance a masterclass in defiance. The insula creaks, the street roars, and you pull your blanket tighter, praying for dawn. Rome's nightlife and gods demand everything: your body, your soul, your sanity, and you're already crumbling, while the Romans built an empire on nights like these. You've stumbled through Rome's reeking streets, survived the soul-crushing latrina, choked down a breakfast that could double as a weapon, and endured a workday that left your bones screaming. But as the Roman night's chaos fades, let's sail down the Nile to ancient Egypt in 2400 BCE, where the hum of bees weaves a quieter, yet no less astonishing tale. Forget the blood-soaked arenas of Rome or the dusty battlefields of Parthia. Here, in the sun-scorched land where the desert kisses the river's emerald waters, beekeeping isn't just a craft. It's a sacred science, a dance with nature that feels like a pact with the gods. You'd be curled up with a podcast and a weighted blanket, stressing over a Wi-Fi glitch. But the Egyptians? They're coaxing liquid gold from buzzing hives, their hands steady despite the sting, their work a testament to patience that makes your modern hustle look like a toddler's tantrum. This is the story of Egypt's bees, and it'll make your daily grind feel like a stroll along the Nile. In ancient Egypt, where the Nile's annual floods dictate life and death, bees are more than insects. They're divine messengers, born, so the myths say, from the tears of Ra, the sun god, as they fell to earth and sparked life. You'd think beekeeping is a humble hobby, something to pass the time between pyramid-building shifts, but in 2400 BCE, it's a state-sponsored art, etched into the walls of tombs at Saqqara, where carvings show men tending hives with a reverence that rivals a priest's prayers. The Egyptians don't just keep bees, they orchestrate their lives, moving hives up and down the Nile like a nomadic symphony, chasing the bloom of wildflowers as the floodwaters recede. You'd be ordering groceries online, grumbling about delivery fees, but these beekeepers are hauling clay tube hives on reed boats, their eyes scanning the riverbanks for the first blush of acacia or lotus. Their work isn't just about honey, it's about survival, medicine, and a connection to the divine that you can't find in a supermarket aisle. The hives themselves are a marvel, nothing like the wooden boxes of modern apiaries. Picture long cylindrical tubes of sun-baked clay, stacked in rows like terracotta soldiers, their surfaces warm under the Egyptian sun. These aren't static structures. They're portable, designed to be loaded onto boats and moved with the seasons, following the nectar flow as flowers bloom along the Nile's fertile banks. You'd be checking a weather app to plan your day, but these beekeepers read the river's rhythms, their knowledge of bloom cycles as precise as a scribe's hieroglyphs. Each hive hums with thousands of bees, their buzz a sacred frequency that echoes Ra's divine will. The beekeepers, often priests or temple workers, approach with a calm that borders on holy, their hands bare, their only protection a puff of smoke from a clay pot filled with smoldering herbs. You'd be reaching for gloves and a hazmat suit, but they face the stings with grit that makes your modern fears seem laughable. Extracting honey is no small feat. It's a delicate dance with a swarm that could turn on you faster than a Nile crocodile. The beekeepers light their clay smokers, blowing gentle clouds of acacia smoke into the hive's entrance, calming the bees by masking their alarm pheromones. You'd be swatting at a single wasp and running for cover, but these men move with a precision honed by generations, their hands steady as they slide out honeycombs, careful not to crush the delicate wax. The honey, golden and viscous, is scraped into ceramic jars, its sweetness a gift from the gods that you'd trade your entire fridge for. But it's not just food. Honey is medicine, a salve for wounds, a cure for coughs, a potion for the afterlife. The Eber's Papyrus, a medical text from 1550 BCE, lists honey in over 500 remedies, mixed with herbs, milk, or wine to heal everything from burns to bellyaches. You'd be popping ibuprofen for a headache, but the Egyptians are smearing honey on infections, their knowledge of its antibacterial magic centuries ahead of your pharmacy. Beeswax, too, is a treasure, harvested with the same care and used in ways that make your modern candles look like child's play. The Egyptians melt it down, filtered it through linen, and shape it into everything from writing tablets to sacred amulets, its durability sealing documents and preserving bodies for the afterlife. You'd be ordering wax melts online, but they're crafting cosmetics and embalming compounds, their hands sticky with the residue of a craft that's as practical as it is divine. In the temples, honey and wax are offered to Ra, Hathor, and Anubis, their golden glow a bridge between the mortal world and the gods. You'd be lighting a scented candle for ambiance, but the Egyptians are burning beeswax to honor the divine, their rituals a reminder that every drop of honey carries Ra's blessing. The beekeeper's work isn't just labor, it's worship, a sacred pact that ties them to the cosmos in a way your modern life can't touch. The beekeepers themselves are no ordinary farmers. They're innovators, their knowledge of bee behavior as sharp as a scribe's stylus. They understand swarm cycles, knowing when bees are likely to bolt for new pastures, and they move hives to catch the peak of the lotus bloom or the acacia's nectar flow. You'd be checking a calendar app for your next meeting, but they're reading the seasons, their eyes tracking the sun's arc and the Nile's moods. Their hives, stacked in shaded groves or temple courtyards, are tended with a care that borders on obsession, each tube checked for signs of disease or pests. If a hive fails, it's not just a loss of honey, it's a blow to the temple's offerings, the healer's remedies, the pharaoh's coffers. You'd be stressing over a bad Yelp review, but these beekeepers are guarding a resource as vital as grain, their work a cornerstone of Egypt's economy and faith. The process isn't without danger. Without protective suits, a misstep could mean a swarm of angry bees, their stings a sharp reminder that nature doesn't bow easily. The beekeepers rely on smoke and steady hands, their courage forged in the heat of the Nile's banks. You'd be running from a single bee, but they face thousands, their calm a testament to resilience that makes your modern complaints seem trivial. They burn herbs like tamarind or myrrh, the smoke curling into the hive like a whispered prayer, soothing the bees into a drowsy trance. The honeycombs, heavy with golden nectar, are lifted with a reverence that mirrors a priest handling sacred relics. You'd be grabbing a jar of store-bought honey, but they're harvesting a substance that's currency, medicine, and divine offering, their hands stained with the sweetness of survival. Honey's role in Egyptian life goes beyond the practical. It's a symbol of order, a microcosm of the harmony that holds the universe together. The hive, with its disciplined workers and tireless queen, mirrors Egypt's rigid hierarchy, where every laborer, scribe, and pharaoh plays their part. You'd be marveling at a nature documentary, But the Egyptians saw the hive as a divine blueprint, a lesson in cooperation blessed by Ra himself. In temples, priests drizzle honey over altars, its sweetness a plea for divine favor, while embalmers use it to seal the dead, preserving them for the afterlife. The bee, small but mighty, is a sacred creature. Its buzz is a hymn to the gods. You'd be snapping a photo of a beehive for Instagram, but the Egyptians are weaving bees into their myths, their medicine, their very souls, and their work a testament to a wisdom that humbles your modern shortcuts. The beekeeper's craft is no mere job. It's a science that anticipates modern apiculture by millennia. They practice transhumance, moving hives to follow the bloom, a strategy as sophisticated as any GPS-tracked migration today. You'd be checking traffic on Waze, but they're navigating the Nile's currents, their boats laden with humming hives, their eyes fixed on the green promise of the riverbanks. They know when to harvest, when to let the bees rest, their timing as precise as the stars that guide their boats. If a hive swarms, they coax it back with smoke and patience, their hands steady despite the risk of stings. You'd be calling an exterminator, but they're coaxing nature with a skill that makes your modern tech seem clumsy. Their knowledge, passed down through generations, is a quiet triumph, a reminder that the Egyptians didn't just build pyramids, they mastered the smallest creatures to sustain an empire. The danger of their work is ever present, a shadow that lingers like the desert heat. A swarm can turn deadly, a single sting escalating to 1,000 if the bees sense panic. The beekeepers, often temple acolytes, wear no veils, no gloves, just linen tunics that offer less protection than your tunic against Rome's streets. You'd be yelping at a mosquito bite, but they face the swarm with a calm that borders on divine, their hands moving with the grace of a dancer in a sacred rite. The smoke they use, puffed from clay pots, is their only shield, its acrid curls a fragile truce with nature's tiny warriors. You'd be ordering bug spray online, but they're trusting in herbs and instinct, their courage a testament to grit that built an empire. The honey they harvest is worth the risk. Its sweetness is a currency that buys favor with gods and men alike. Honey's uses are endless, woven into every corner of Egyptian life. In medicine, it's a miracle, slathered on wounds to fend off infection, mixed with garlic to soothe coughs, or blended with lotus to ease stomach pains. The Eber's Papyrus, a medical scroll from centuries later, lists honey as a star in over 500 remedies, its antibacterial powers, a secret the Egyptians wielded without knowing the science. You'd be popping antibiotics, but they're using honey to heal, their knowledge a leap ahead of your pharmacy. In temples, honey is poured over altars, its golden glow a gift to Ra, Hathor, and Osiris, while embalmers smear it on mummies, sealing the dead for eternity. You'd be buying processed sugar, but they're harvesting a substance that's both food and divine essence, its value as great as gold. Beeswax, too, is a treasure, molded into amulets, writing tablets, or cosmetics that keep Egypt's elite radiant under the desert sun. The beekeeper's work is a delicate balance, a harmony between human ingenuity and nature's whims. They tend their hives in temple groves or riverbank gardens, their eyes scanning for signs of trouble, mites, robbers, or a queen's faltering reign. You'd be checking your email for updates, but they're reading the hive's hum, their ears tuned to the subtle shifts that signal health or disaster. A failed hive isn't just a loss of honey, It's a blow to the temple's rituals, the healer's craft, and the pharaoh's wealth. The beekeeper's vigilance is quiet heroism, their hands steady despite the stings, their work a cornerstone of Egypt's prosperity. You'd be stressing over a missed deadline, but they're guarding a resource as vital as the Nile itself, their patience a lesson in survival that your modern rush can't match. The hive's symbolism runs deep, a mirror of Egypt's ordered world. The bees, with their tireless workers and divine queen, reflect the pharaoh's court, where every scribe, priest, and laborer plays their part under Maat, the goddess of truth and balance. You'd be watching a TED Talk on teamwork, but the Egyptians saw the hive as a sacred lesson, a model of cooperation blessed by the gods. In myths, bees are Ra's tears, their honey a gift from the heavens, and their buzz a hymn to creation. You'd be marveling at a science podcast, but they're weaving bees into their faith, their medicine, their afterlife, their work a bridge between the mortal and the divine. The beekeeper's craft isn't just about honey, it's about order, about a harmony that holds Egypt together in a way your fragmented modern life can't touch. The Egyptians' mastery of beekeeping is a triumph of ingenuity, a science that anticipates modern apiculture by thousands of years. Their transhumance moving hives to chase blooms is as sophisticated as any modern migratory beekeeping operation. You'd be tracking a package on your phone, but they're navigating the Nile's currents, their boats laden with humming hives, their eyes fixed on the green promise of the riverbanks. They know when to harvest, when to let the bees rest, their timing as precise as the stars that guide their boats. If a hive swarms, they coax it back with smog and patience, their hands steady despite the risk of stings. You'd be calling a pest control service, but they're coaxing nature with a skill that makes your modern tech seem clumsy. Their knowledge, passed down through generations, is a quiet victory, a reminder that the Egyptians didn't just build monuments, they mastered the smallest creatures to sustain an empire. The beekeepers' lives are a testament to a resilience that humbles your modern complaints. They work under a sun that burns like Ra's wrath, their tunics soaked with sweat, their hands scarred by stings and clay. You'd be whining about a hot commute, but they're tending hives in the desert's heat, their calm defiance of nature's challenges. Their work feeds temples, heals the sick, and preserves the dead, a cycle of survival that ties them to the gods. You'd be grateful for your air-conditioned office and instant coffee, but they're harvesting honey that's worth more than gold, their grit a cornerstone of Egypt's glory. As the hum of the hive fades into the night, you can't help but feel a pang of awe for these beekeepers, their craft a whisper of wisdom that still echoes through the ages, a reminder that even the smallest creatures can shape a civilization. You've staggered through the reeking alleys of Rome, where cobblestones double as sewers and the latrina's communal sponge haunts your nightmares. You've choked down Panis rustic that could break a gladiator's jaw, hauled bricks under a sun that feels like Jupiter's wrath, and dodged thieves in a night that never sleeps. You've ridden with Rhodagoon across Parthia's dusty plains, her unwashed hair a banner of defiance, and sailed with Hatshepsut's ships to Punt, her ambition outshining the Nile's gleam. You've even stood beside Egypt's beekeepers, their hands coaxing liquid gold from hives that hum with divine purpose. By now, you're exhausted, your modern soul battered by the sheer grit of ancient life. You'd be curled up with a pizza and Netflix, whining about a Wi Fi glitch. But the ancients, our Romans, Parthians, Egyptians, built empires on sweat, sacrifice, and a stubborn will that makes your daily grind look like a lazy afternoon. Let's pause, take a breath, and reflect. You wouldn't last a day in their world, and that's okay. It's their resilience that lets you sleep tonight. Picture yourself back in that Roman insula, its damp walls closing in, the stench of mildew and lead laced water clogging your lungs. You'd be reaching for a thermostat, desperate for air conditioning, but the Romans pressed on, their bodies hardened to a city that offered no mercy. Their tunics were patched with grit, their sandals worn to threads, yet they built aqueducts that still stand, roads that stretch across continents, and laws that echo in our courthouses. You stumbled through their streets, dodging carts and cursing the filth, but they walked those same paths daily, their endurance a silent hymn to survival. The latrine's terror left you spiritually scarred, but they shared it without flinching, their lives a relentless cycle of work, worship, and chaos. You'd be Googling how to escape ancient Rome, but they carved greatness from grime, their resilience a foundation for the world you take for granted. Now imagine yourself in Parthia, riding beside Rhodogun as her tangled hair whips in the desert wind, her vow to crush rebels a fire that burns brighter than your modern ambitions. You'd be booking a spa day to recover from a single dusty ride, but she led armies, her hands gripping reins instead of a crown, her heart wrestling with doubts that would have sent you running. Her soldiers saw not a princess, but a commander, her unwashed mane a symbol of shared sacrifice. The Parthians didn't just fight, they endured, their empire a testament to a grit that matched Rome's stone. You'd be stressing over a missed deadline, but Rhodogune's defiance turned dust into legend, her story a whisper that still echoes through history's sands. Her resilience, like that of the Romans, wasn't about comfort. It was about survival, about forging something eternal from the chaos of a rebellious world. Then there's Hatshepsut, standing tall on the docks of Thebes, her false beard a defiant badge against a court that sneered at her audacity. You'd be panicking over a bad performance review, but she claimed divinity, sending ships to punt to bring back gold and myrrh that silenced her critics. Her temple at Deir el-Bahri, carved into the cliffs, stands as a love letter to Egypt, its reliefs telling a story of ambition that outlasted her enemies' chisels. You'd be snapping selfies for likes, but she crafted a legacy in stone, her vision reshaping an empire without a single sword drawn. The Egyptians, like the Romans and Parthians, didn't just survive, they thrived, their resilience a beacon that makes your modern complaints seem like whispers in the wind. Their grit built monuments, trade routes, and a civilization that still shapes our world. And let's not forget the beekeepers of ancient Egypt, their hands steady as they coaxed honey from hives that buzzed with Ra's divine tears. You'd be yelping at a single bee sting, ordering bug spray online, but they faced swarms with nothing but smoke and courage, their craft a sacred dance that fed temples, healed the sick, and preserved the dead. Their hives moved along the Nile's banks, were a symphony of survival, each jar of honey a testament to a patience you can't muster. You'd be grabbing a jar of store-bought honey, but they harvested a substance that was medicine, currency, and divine offering, their work a cornerstone of Egypt's prosperity. The ancients' ability to master nature's smallest creatures To build empires from the hum of bees is a humbling contrast to your reliance on apps and air conditioning. The point is, you wouldn't survive their world, not for a day, not for an hour. The insula's filth, the Katrina's horrors, the back-breaking work, the relentless gods, they'd break you before lunch. You'd be begging for a hot shower, a quiet room, a slice of pizza to erase the taste of garum. But the Romans, Parthians, and Egyptians didn't just endure, they created, their sweat and sacrifice forging aqueducts, temples, and trade routes that still echo in our lives. Their languages live in our words, their arches in our buildings, their laws in our governments. You'd be scrolling through your phone, stressing over a low battery, but they built civilizations with nothing but grit and will, their resilience a masterclass in defiance. The point of no return is this: you don't need to live their lives, you just need to marvel at them, to let their stories lull you into a sleep you've earned. As you lie there, wrapped in your modern blanket, the hum of a fan drowning out the world, think of the ancients who faced nights louder than your worst insomnia. The Romans slept through tavern brawls and creaking insulas, the Parthians through desert winds and rebel threats, and the Egyptians through the buzz of sacred bees. Their world was harsh, unforgiving, a relentless grind that would have sent you running for a therapist. But they pressed on, their endurance a gift that lets you rest tonight. You don't need to haul bricks or dodge thieves. You can close your eyes, let the stories of their grit wash over you, and drift off in a world they helped build. The Romans, Parthians, and Egyptians didn't just survive, they shaped history, and as you sink into sleep, you can't help but feel a pang of gratitude for their stubborn, unbreakable will. You've stumbled through Rome's reeking insulas, dodged the soul-crushing sponge, and survived a workday that makes your 9 to 5 seem like a nap. You've ridden with Rhodagoon, her unwashed hair a defiant banner, and sailed with Hatshepsut, her ambition outshining the Nile. You've even marveled at Egypt's beekeepers, coaxing divine honey from buzzing hives. But let's be honest, you'd crumble before noon, begging for Wi-Fi and a pizza. The ancients, though, built empires on grit, their sweat forging aqueducts, temples, and legacies that echo in our world. You'd be whining about a bad signal, but they endured, their resilience a gift that lets you sleep tonight. So as you drift off, wrapped in modern comforts, drop a comment below. Tell us how Rome's chaos hit you, or share your favorite ancient tale. Spread this story to friends, and let's keep history's whispers alive.